I've been rebuilding Toyota and Lexus engines for 22 years, and about 6 years ago, I discovered something that completely changed how I understood vehicle maintenance. I was consulting at a Toyota assembly plant in Tahara, Japan in 2018. During a break, I asked one of the senior engineers about maintenance intervals. He pulled out a service manual written entirely in Japanese. When I showed him the American maintenance schedule for the same vehicle, his face went blank. He said three words I'll never forget: "That kills engines." Same car, same engine, two completely different maintenance philosophies, and the results speak for themselves. The average Toyota in Japan routinely exceeds 500,000 miles. In America, most Toyotas are considered high mileage at 200,000. Today, I'm walking you through the exact Japanese maintenance approach that keeps engines running 500,000 miles. And when I get to the transmission fluid interval, you're going to understand why so many American transmissions fail right after the warranty expires. Before we dive into the specific intervals, you need to understand why American maintenance recommendations exist the way they do. This isn't about dealerships being evil, it's about incentive structures. American dealerships make roughly 8% profit on maintenance services. They make 40 to 60% profit on major repairs. A transmission replacement brings in more revenue in one afternoon than a year of oil changes. The official maintenance schedule is designed around liability protection and profit optimization, not longevity. If your car makes it past warranty without a catastrophic failure, the schedule did its job from a legal standpoint. What happens at 150,000 miles is no longer their concern. The Japanese approach is fundamentally different. In Japan, maintenance is treated like compound interest. Small investments made consistently prevent catastrophic losses later. The philosophy isn't keep it running. The philosophy is keep every internal component in near original condition for as long as physically possible. That difference in mindset creates a difference in outcomes that most American Toyota owners never see because they're following a maintenance schedule designed for a completely different goal. Let's start with engine oil. In America, Toyota recommends oil changes every 10,000 miles with synthetic oil. Some models even have oil life monitors that routinely push drivers to 12,000 miles between changes. In Japan, the interval is 5,000 miles. Always, no exceptions. No oil life monitors convincing you to stretch it further. Here's the mechanism most people don't understand. Synthetic oil doesn't wear out because it stops lubricating. It wears out because the additive package depletes. The detergents that prevent sludge, the anti-wear compounds that protect metal surfaces, the viscosity modifiers that maintain proper thickness, all of these break down with heat cycles and contamination. By 7,000 miles, even premium synthetic oil has lost roughly 40% of its additive protection. The base oil is still slippery, so the engine doesn't seize, but the protection that prevents long-term damage is gone. I pulled apart a 2016 Camry 5.6 last year with 87,000 miles. The owner followed the 10,000-mile interval religiously. Always used Toyota genuine synthetic oil. When I removed the valve covers, there was visible sludge on the camshafts and in the oil return passages. Not catastrophic, but absolutely present. 2 weeks later, I tore down a 2015 Camry V6 with 160,000 miles. That owner changed oil every 5,000 miles with the same Toyota oil. The inside of that engine looked almost new. Clean metal, no sludge, no varnish. An oil change costs about $60 if you do it yourself, $90 at a quick lube place. Cutting the interval in half costs you an extra $180 per year if you drive 15,000 miles annually. Engine replacement costs between $4,000 and $8,000. The math is simple. Japanese owners spend $180 more per year, and their engines last twice as long. American owners save that $180 and replace engines at 200,000 miles. Oil is cheap, engines are not. You won't hear this from dealerships because they'd rather sell you an engine or a new car than an extra oil change. Their service department is a profit center, not a longevity center. Transmission fluid is where the gap becomes almost criminal. In America, Toyota and Lexus label most automatic transmissions as lifetime fluid. The official service manual has no transmission fluid change interval. The assumption is the fluid lasts the life of the transmission, which in their calculation is about 150,000 miles. In Japan, transmission fluid is changed every 30,000 miles without exception. Not a flush, a drain and fill. Here's what actually happens inside an automatic transmission. The fluid doesn't just lubricate gears, it operates under extreme pressure and heat to actuate clutch packs, control valve bodies, and manage shift timing. As the fluid ages, it loses viscosity. The friction modifiers break down. Microscopic metal particles from normal clutch wear accumulate in the fluid. By 60,000 miles, that fluid is no longer performing the way it was engineered to perform. The transmission still shifts, so the average driver notices nothing wrong. But internal wear is accelerating. By 100,000 miles, the clutch packs are slipping slightly. The valve body is getting sticky. By 150,000 miles, the transmission starts showing symptoms. Harsh shifts, delayed engagement, slipping between gears. At that point, the damage is done. A fluid change won't fix it. Yeah, you need a rebuild or replacement. I've done this exact comparison dozens of times. I inspected a 2012 Lexus RX with 340,000 miles. The owner changed transmission fluid every 30,000 miles using genuine Toyota WS fluid. When I dropped the pan, the fluid was still light red. The magnet had minimal metal particles. I drove that vehicle. It shifted as smoothly as a new RX. 2 months later, I inspected a 2013 Lexus RX with 160,000 miles. Original transmission fluid. Never changed. When I dropped the pan, the fluid was dark brown and smelled burnt. The magnet was covered in metal shavings. That transmission failed completely at 182,000 miles. A drain and fill costs about $150. It takes 30 minutes. Doing this every 30,000 miles means spending $150 5 times by the time you hit 150,000 miles. Total cost is $750. A replacement transmission costs between $4,500 and $6,500. You're spending $750 to avoid spending $5,000. But dealerships don't recommend it because lifetime fluid is more profitable. If your transmission fails at 160,000 miles, that's a $5,000 service visit. If you maintain it and it lasts 400,000 miles, they never see that revenue. If this approach makes sense to you so far, hit subscribe right now. I put out a new video every week showing you exactly how to maintain your vehicle the way the factory engineers actually intended, not the way the marketing department advertised. You're getting the information that keeps cars on the road in Japan for 500,000 miles, while American versions of the same vehicle are in junkyards at 180,000. Engine air filter intervals are another place where American recommendations quietly destroy engines. In the US, Toyota recommends inspecting the air filter every 30,000 miles and replacing it only if it looks dirty. In Japan, the air filter is replaced every 15,000 miles regardless of appearance. Here's the mechanism. A dirty air filter doesn't just restrict airflow, it changes the air-fuel ratio. When the engine can't pull in enough air, the computer compensates by reducing fuel. That sounds efficient, but it creates a lean running condition under load. Lean conditions increase combustion temperature. Higher combustion temperatures accelerate carbon buildup on intake valves, especially in direct injection engines. They also increase the likelihood of pre-ignition and detonation, both of which cause long-term damage to pistons and rings. A slightly dirty air filter won't cause immediate symptoms. The engine runs fine. Fuel economy might even improve slightly because the computer is leaning out the mixture. But over 80,000 miles, that cumulative damage adds up. I pulled the intake manifold off a 2017 Camry with the 2.5-liter direct injection engine. It had 92,000 miles. The owner replaced the air filter every 40,000 miles, which is actually better than a lot of people. The intake valves had heavy carbon buildup. That carbon was restricting airflow and causing rough idle. A walnut blasting service to clean those valves costs $400 to $600. Now compare that to a 2016 Camry with the same engine and 140,000 miles. That owner replaced the air filter every 15,000 miles. When I pulled the intake manifold, right, the valves were nearly clean. Minimal carbon. No rough idle, no performance issues. An engine air filter costs $20. Replacing it every 15,000 miles instead of every 40,000 means you're spending an extra $40 per year if you drive 15,000 miles annually. Valve cleaning costs $500. You're spending $40 per year to avoid spending $500 every 100,000 miles. The reason American intervals are longer is because shorter intervals mean more service visits, and customers complain about maintenance costs. It's easier to sell a customer one air filter every 3 years than one air filter every year, even if that choice quietly damages the engine. Cabin air filters seem minor until you understand what they actually protect. In the US, Toyota recommends replacing the cabin air filter every 20,000 miles, or when airflow decreases. In Japan, it's replaced every 10,000 miles without waiting for symptoms. The cabin air filter doesn't just keep your air clean, it protects the evaporator core in your air conditioning system. When the cabin filter gets clogged, moisture accumulates on the evaporator. That moisture creates an environment for mold and bacteria. Over time, that contamination restricts airflow and reduces cooling efficiency. More importantly, a clogged cabin filter forces the blower motor to work harder. The blower motor is pushing air through an increasingly restrictive filter. That added resistance shortens the life of the blower motor itself. I've seen this pattern dozens of times. A customer complains that their air conditioning isn't blowing hard enough. I pull the cabin filter and it's completely packed with dirt and leaves. The evaporator behind it smells like mildew. The blower motor is loud and struggling. At that point, you need an evaporator cleaning service and potentially a blower motor replacement. Total cost is $400 to $700. A cabin air filter costs $15. Replacing it every 10,000 miles costs you an extra $15 per year compared to the 20,000-mile interval. You're spending $15 per year to avoid spending $600 on blower motor and evaporator repairs. Dealerships don't push this service hard because it's a low-margin item. They'd rather sell you a blower motor replacement. Brake fluid is one of the most ignored fluids in American vehicle maintenance. Most Toyota owners never change brake fluid, ever. The factory recommendation is inspect brake fluid and replace if contaminated. In Japan, brake fluid is changed every 24,000 miles or 2 years, whichever comes first. Here's what people don't understand about brake fluid. It's hygroscopic. That means it absorbs moisture from the air. Over time, even in a sealed system, brake fluid absorbs water. Water in brake fluid does two things. First, it lowers the boiling point. When you press the brakes hard, the fluid heats up. If the boiling point has dropped due to water contamination, the fluid can boil. When brake fluid boils, it creates vapor. Vapor compresses. That means when you press the brake pedal, you're compressing vapor instead of moving hydraulic fluid. Your pedal goes to the floor and your brakes don't work. That's called brake fade. Second, water in brake fluid causes internal corrosion. Brake calipers, wheel cylinders, master cylinders, ABS modules, all of these components have metal parts. Water corrodes those metal parts. Corrosion causes pistons to stick, seals to fail, and valves to malfunction. I inspected a 2014 4Runner with 110,000 miles. Original brake fluid, never changed. When I tested the fluid, the boiling point had dropped from the factory spec of 401 degrees Fahrenheit to 280 degrees. The fluid was dark brown. I pulled the brake calipers and the pistons were corroded. The seals were leaking. That owner needed a complete brake system overhaul. Cost was $1,800. Compare that to a 2013 4Runner with 155,000 miles. The owner changed brake fluid every 2 years. When I tested that fluid, it was clear and the boiling point was still above 380 degrees. The brake calipers looked nearly new inside. A brake fluid change costs about $100. Doing it every 2 years means spending $100 5 times over 10 years. Total cost is $500. You're spending $500 to avoid spending $1,800 on a brake system rebuild. Dealerships don't recommend this because brake fluid changes are low profit services. Brake repairs and replacements are high profit. Coolant is another fluid where American intervals quietly destroy engines. In the US, Toyota recommends the first coolant change at 100,000 miles, then every 50,000 miles after that. Some models with long life coolant push the first change to 120,000 miles. In Japan, coolant is changed every 30,000 miles. Coolant doesn't just prevent freezing and overheating, it protects every metal surface in the cooling system from corrosion. The additive package in coolant includes corrosion inhibitors that protect aluminum, steel, and copper components. Those inhibitors deplete over time. Once they're gone, the coolant becomes acidic. Acidic coolant eats away at gaskets, corrodes radiator tubes, and attacks the water pump seal. By 80,000 miles, coolant that hasn't been changed is often acidic enough to cause measurable damage. I pulled the radiator out of a 2015 Highlander with 130,000 miles. Original coolant, never changed. The inside of the radiator had visible corrosion. The heater core was leaking. The water pump was seeping coolant from the weep hole. That owner needed a radiator, heater core, and water pump. Total repair cost was $2,100. Now compare that to a 2014 Highlander with 190,000 miles. The owner changed coolant every 30,000 miles. I inspected the cooling system. The radiator looked new inside. The water pump was dry. No leaks anywhere. A coolant change costs about $120. Changing it every 30,000 miles instead of every 100,000 miles costs an extra $240 over 100,000 miles. You're spending $240 to avoid spending $2,100 on cooling system repairs. The reason the American interval is longer is because customers don't want to hear that they need a $120 coolant service every 30,000 miles. It's easier to sell long-life coolant and deal with the repairs later. By the time the cooling system fails, the vehicle is out of warranty, and the customer assumes it's just normal wear and tear. Differential fluid and transfer case fluid are completely ignored on most American Toyotas and Lexus vehicles. The maintenance schedule says inspect for leaks. It does not specify a change interval. In Japan, differential and transfer case fluids are changed every 30,000 miles on four-wheel drive and all-wheel drive vehicles. Here's the reality. Differential fluid operates under extreme pressure. The ring and pinion gears are under constant load. The fluid breaks down, it shears. Metal particles from normal gear wear accumulate. On vehicles with limited slip differentials, the friction modifier additives in the fluid deplete. Once those additives are gone, the limited slip clutches start chattering and wearing rapidly. On all-wheel drive vehicles, the transfer case and rear differential share the load of sending power to all four wheels. If the fluid in those components breaks down, the gears wear faster. I inspected a 2016 Lexus GX with 98,000 miles. The owner never changed the differential or transfer case fluid. When I drained the rear differential, the fluid was black and had a burnt smell. The magnet was covered in metal shavings. That differential was already damaged. It was making noise on turns. The repair required a complete differential rebuild. Cost was $2,400. Compare that to a 2015 GX with 160,000 miles. The owner changed differential and transfer case fluid every 30,000 miles. I drained the fluid. It was still translucent. The magnet had minimal particles. That differential was quiet and showed no signs of wear. A differential service costs about $100. A transfer case service costs about $90. Changing both every 30,000 miles costs $190. Over 150,000 miles, you're spending $950 in fluid changes. That prevents a $2,400 differential rebuild and a potential $1,800 transfer case replacement. Dealerships don't recommend this because it's not required for warranty coverage. If your differential fails at 120,000 miles, that's a profitable repair. If you maintain it and it lasts 300,000 miles, they never see that work. Spark plugs are another place where American intervals create problems. In the US, Toyota recommends spark plug replacement at 120,000 miles for iridium plugs. In Japan, spark plugs are replaced every 60,000 miles. Spark plugs don't just stop working. They degrade gradually. The electrode wears down, the gap increases. As the gap increases, the voltage required to fire the plug increases. That puts extra stress on the ignition coil. A worn spark plug forces the ignition coil to work harder and run hotter. That shortens the life of the coil. Worn spark plugs also create incomplete combustion. Incomplete combustion means unburned fuel enters the exhaust. That unburned fuel can damage the catalytic converter over time. I worked on a 2014 Camry with 125,000 miles. Original spark plugs. The owner brought it in because the check engine light was on. The code was for a misfire. I pulled the spark plugs. The gaps were worn to nearly double the factory spec. The ignition coils were weak. That owner needed spark plugs in all 4 ignition coils. Total cost was $650. Compare that to a 2013 Camry with 180,000 miles. That owner replaced spark plugs every 60,000 miles. When I inspected the ignition system, the coils were still strong. No misfires, no check engine light. A set of 4 iridium spark plugs cost about $60. Replacing them every 60,000 miles instead of every 120,000 means you're buying one extra set over the life of the vehicle. You're spending $60 to avoid spending $650 on plugs and coils. Dealerships recommend the 120,000-mile interval because it reduces the number of service visits. Customers don't want to come in for spark plugs every 60,000 miles, but that longer interval quietly increases the likelihood of coil failure and converter damage, both of which are high-profit repairs. Tire rotations seem basic, but the interval matters more than people realize. In America, Toyota recommends tire rotations every 10,000 miles. In Japan, tires are rotated every 5,000 miles. Tires don't wear evenly. The front tires on a front-wheel drive vehicle wear faster because they handle steering, braking, and power delivery. If you wait 10,000 miles between rotations, the wear pattern becomes permanent. Once a tire develops a wear pattern, rotating it doesn't fix the pattern. It just moves the pattern to a different position. That creates noise and vibration. It also shortens the overall life of the tires because the most worn tires dictate when you replace the full set. I've measured this directly. A set of tires rotated every 10,000 miles typically lasts 50,000 to 60,000 miles. The same tires on the same vehicle rotated every 5,000 miles last 70,000 to 80,000 miles. A tire rotation costs about $25. Rotating every 5,000 miles instead of every 10,000 miles costs an extra $25 per year if you drive 15,000 miles annually. A set of 4 quality tires costs $800 to $1,000. By rotating more frequently, you're extending tire life by 20,000 miles. At 15,000 miles per year, that's more than a year of extra tire life. You're spending an extra $25 per year and saving $800 every time you replace tires. Most quick lube places offer free tire rotations with an oil change. If you're changing oil every 5,000 miles, you're already there. There's no reason not to rotate the tires. If you want the complete Japanese maintenance schedule for your specific Toyota or Lexus model, I've put together a detailed maintenance checklist organized by mileage interval. It includes every fluid, every filter, exact part numbers, and the specific intervals Japanese owners follow to keep their vehicles running past 500,000 miles. It's free. The link is in the description. This is the exact schedule I follow on my own vehicles and the one I recommend to every customer who wants their car to last. Now here's the one that surprises people the most: fuel system cleaning. In America, fuel system cleaners are seen as optional additives that might help, or might be snake oil. In Japan, fuel injector cleaning is a scheduled maintenance item every 30,000 miles. Here's the mechanism. Modern direct injection engines spray fuel directly into the combustion chamber under extremely high pressure. The injectors have tiny nozzles. Over time, carbon deposits build up on those nozzles. Even a small amount of carbon changes the spray pattern. When the spray pattern changes, combustion efficiency drops, You get incomplete combustion. That creates more carbon. It's a cycle. Port injection engines have a different problem. The fuel is sprayed into the intake port, not directly into the cylinder. That means the intake valves get coated with fuel every time the injector fires. In older engines, that fuel actually cleaned the valves, but modern gasoline has fewer detergents, and engines with positive crankcase ventilation recirculate oil vapor back into the intake. That oil vapor coats the intake valves. Without fuel washing over them constantly, carbon builds up. I scoped the intake valves on a 2018 Camry with 73,000 miles. It had the 2.5-liter engine with port and direct injection. The owner never did any fuel system cleaning. The intake valves had heavy carbon buildup. That carbon was causing rough, idle, and reduced fuel economy. The fix required walnut blasting. Cost was $450. Compare that to a 2017 Camry with the same engine and 115,000 miles. That owner did a professional fuel injector cleaning every 30,000 miles. When I scoped the intake valves, they had minimal carbon. The engine ran smooth. A professional fuel injection cleaning service costs about $150. Doing it every 30,000 miles means spending $150 three times by 90,000 miles. Total cost is $450. That prevents a $450 walnut blasting service and maintains optimal fuel economy. Better fuel economy alone often pays for the service. If cleaning the injectors improves fuel economy by just 1 mile per gallon, and you drive 15,000 miles per year at $4 per gallon, you save $150 per year in fuel. The service pays for itself. Dealerships don't push this service because it requires specialized equipment and training, and it's easier to sell you a walnut blasting service after the problem develops. What you now know is what Japanese Toyota owners have known for decades. Maintenance is not an expense. It's an investment with a measurable return. Every service I just described has a direct cost comparison. You can add up the maintenance costs and compare them to the repair costs they prevent. The math is not close. Over the life of a vehicle, the Japanese maintenance approach costs about $3,000 more than the American approach. But it prevents somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000 in major repairs. The vehicle lasts twice as long. Resale value stays higher because the vehicle has documented maintenance and runs like new even at high mileage. This is why you see Toyotas in Japan with 400,000 and 500,000 miles still on the road as daily drivers. It's not because Japanese vehicles are built better. It's because they're maintained better. You have a choice. Maintain your Toyota or Lexus the way Japanese owners do, spending small amounts consistently to keep every component in near-perfect condition. Or follow the American schedule, save money in the short term, and pay for it in major repairs after 150,000 miles. The engineers who designed your engine know which approach works. That's why they follow the shorter intervals in Japan. The maintenance schedule in your American owner's manual was written by lawyers and marketing teams optimizing for warranty coverage and customer convenience. It was not written to maximize vehicle lifespan. Drop a comment right now and tell me what year and model Toyota or Lexus you're driving, what the current mileage is, and which of these maintenance items you're going to start doing. I read every single comment, and in the next video, I'm breaking down the one mistake that destroys more Toyota engines than anything else. It's something dealerships actually recommend. It's in your owner's manual, and it's killing engines at 180,000 miles that should be running strong at 400,000. If you own a Toyota or Lexus, you can't afford to miss it.